here is singer-songwriter, broadcaster, audio-video artist, entertainment agent, and your host for the dHarmic evolution. It's the master storyteller himself, James Kevin O'Connor.
Welcome back once again to the dHarmic evolution. We've got a real treat today. He's from New Jersey, and he is a finger-style guitar player. He's also a graphic designer. Really connecting on so many levels. He has fused together finger-style guitar playing with singer-songwriter approach, and that's a rare thing, but I think you're really going to enjoy this music. He also worked with Grammy Award-winning songwriters and producers Tricky Stewart and The Dream. He then moved to LA to work with Tricky and his team. Put out his first and only EP as the Pilot Kids called Open Fire. He then moved back to New Jersey in 2017 to reconnect with his New Jersey roots and launch his new solo project. You better strap up your seatbelts, because we're taking a ride today on the dHarmic evolution with Donrique. So here we go, another round of the dHarmic evolution, and today, Donrique, welcome to the dHarmic evolution.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Checking out your music, man. Slamming, acoustic, finger-style guitarist, amongst other, talents that you have. And just a quick backstory for everybody. Just the way Donrique and I met is I've been in a class with his significant other for quite a while. She's my yoga instructor, and she kept telling me about her boyfriend is this guitar player. And, you hear that and you go, yeah, there's millions of us. I never paid too much attention until I surfed through Facebook and listened to your music. And I was really, really blown away about the whole thing. So, welcome to the show. And I'm so glad to have you here to share your music and your stories today.
Yeah, honestly, I love when things happen organically like that. Those are always my favorite kinds of experiences and opportunities, is when they just kind of happen. It's not from reaching out to people or, banging on someone's door. It just kind of happens. So these are always really fun for me.
Yeah, and it all ties into the whole, yoga experience. And if we want to touch on that, we can do that too. But I've been doing that so long, probably 15 or 16 years, really dedicated to the practice. So many good things related to music come out of, the spiritual thing, the yoga thing, just connecting with people in all different walks of life. So that was a really, really good way for me to discover you. So let's get on to the sounds and the stories of Donrique. And so tell us how it got, you got connected to fingerstyle. And that's not the only thing you're doing, but quite frankly, my favorite thing to listen to when I'm not listening to music related to business and the type of sounds that I make is the exact thing that you do, which is fingerstyle, the guitar work. And it's just a wonderful thing to just sit and process and listen to and let it soak into your DNA. So how did you get connected to this type of music?
Yeah, well, first, I definitely agree with you. It's my favorite thing to listen to when I'm not listening to, podcasts. Nowadays, I'm listening to mostly business and entrepreneur guys. So I get more inspired from that kind of thing than from music. But when I do like to listen to music, I like to listen to fingerstyle guitar. And the way that I got into it really was through, the way that I really got into music was through graphic design. And that's kind of where it all started for me. I was always drawing in class, like, middle school and elementary school. I was always drawing and trying to show everyone my drawings and doing a picture of SpongeBob and showing people and stuff like that. And then that kind of led into me taking a graphic design class when I was in 8th grade. And I started to kind of connect, like, well, these kind of look like drawings on the computer. And, this is my little 8th grade brain trying to figure out what was going on with Photoshop. And then that sort of led to a friend of mine was playing music. I was not playing music at the time. And a friend of mine was, played guitar, and he had a little band that he was doing. And he saw some of the designs that I was making in Photoshop class. He said, "Oh, those are sick. You should like help my band make a t-shirt design for our band." And I was like, what do you like? I didn't really know what he was talking about. So he started showing me like different bands that he was influenced by, and sort of the idea of like applying artwork to a music act with his project. And I was really into it. And then I started making these little designs for my friend's band in Photoshop. And then that led to me going to local shows to see more of like indie rock, emo type bands in Freehold, New Jersey. And then that kind of led me to that's when I really started to connect with music. It wasn't fingerstyle guitar yet, but that's how I got into music, was through the art. And then I started connecting with local bands and offering to help them design their t-shirts. And then I was screen printing t-shirts in my garage. And then now I was kind of in this like local music scene. And naturally I just was like, well, I think I kind of like the music side of it too. I liked making the artwork for the visual side of the music. But then I started getting to like, I want to play an instrument. So my dad kind of saw my interest in music, saw what was going on, and he had an old acoustic guitar in his closet, and he pulled it out. And my dad is an incredible artist, musician in his own right. And his favorite band was Jethro Tull.
Oh, so kidding.
My whole life growing up, I was, hearing Aqualung and all kinds of, Thick as a Brick, just kind of playing from downstairs just all day long. So that was kind of probably the first influence of music. And but anyway, so he had an old guitar in his closet, and he knew some basic chords. And he was like, here, you can take my guitar, and here's an E minor, and here's a G, and have fun with it. And then so I started playing acoustic guitar first, but I wasn't quite doing fingerstyle yet. I was playing like indie rock, emo, just kind of like bar chords and trying to sing, and I didn't know what to sing about. And then, I was playing around on the guitar for maybe like, a year and a half, 2 years, something like that, just kind of playing bar chords, rock songs. And then YouTube happened. And then I found that sort of infamous Andy McKee video of him playing drifting. And then, like me and a lot of other people around the world, that kind of just sparked an entire world of music and guitar playing that a lot of people didn't even know existed. And I was just sort of completely sucked in at that point. And I was like, what is this that's going on the guitar?
Yeah.
And it sort of became a transition of the artwork was still happening, and the other kind of music, I was still listening to it, but it was like, I was just every day getting more and more committed to learning this art form on the guitar. And then I just found Tommy Emmanuel, and I found all these other guitar players and started tracing back the lineage. And then it just kind of became, that's what I was doing. And, it was, now it's kind of still a combination of all those things. And, fingerstyle guitar is still my roots in terms of how I learned music and how I even learned about songwriting and composition before I was singing. I was kind of seeing with fingerstyle guitar, it's more of like you're becoming a producer, and, you're thinking about all the parts that a band would be doing. So yeah, fingerstyle guitar is, I think it's a great, one, because you could take it with you anywhere. It's similar to playing the piano, but you can't put a baby grand in your trunk. So I think fingerstyle guitar is such a great art form, and if you're a songwriter, it's such a great tool to be able to write songs on.
So why don't we give everybody a taste? Here we go. that was LA Funk. Man, that is happening. So that's the one that sold me when I first heard that. I said, oh yeah, this guy knows what he's doing. So one of the things I really love what you're doing, and this is something I wanted to do years ago, and you know, I started listening to a lot of the people that you're listening to, and just got swept away by, like, this is just beautiful music. And what about incorporating a singer-songwriter into that world? And I start to see you, and just very, very few people are doing that. And I kind of took a different path. But, you know, when did it occur to you to say, you know what, I wanna, you know, just expand my brand of not only fingerstyle, but, you know, go a little bit singer-songwriter as well as this? Like, when did that start to develop for you?
Yeah, I think that's a really I love that you brought that up about because I think that that's sort of the trajectory for a lot of people playing this style of guitar, or even just interested in singer-songwriter. You know, if it's very guitar heavy, even if it's like James Taylor or, you know, Don McLean, like there is an intricacy to the guitar that is sort of inherent with that classic singer-songwriter with the guitar. And, you know, if you kind of take it a little bit further and you get a little more complex, it can kind of take away from the vocal. So it's kind of that balance of, like, you know, when do I put in a crazy lick? I think someone like Brian Setzer does it really well. So there are people out there who are doing it, but it's very tricky. It's kind of a tricky thing to crack. And the way that I really got into it was when I was really heavily just focused on instrumental fingerstyle guitar, no singing. I was sort of following this path of wanting to connect with this community called Candy Rat Records. And they have a YouTube channel where they sort of bring up a lot of the, you know, the talent in that.
What is it called? Candy
Rat Records.
Oh, okay. I hadn't heard of them.
Yeah, I mean, they were responsible for finding Andy McKee, and they signed him, and he was one of their first kind of, like, you know, guys that put them on the map. And then, but anyway, so they have an incredible, I mean, they're sort of the hub for, you know, up and coming fingerstyle guitar players. And when I was sort of like, this is what I want to do, you know, I wasn't thinking about singing. I wasn't thinking about producing or anything. I was like, I want to get on Candy Rat YouTube channel.
Right.
So, so I started to form a relationship with some of the artists on there, and I got to know the owner of the label, and he was giving me a lot of great advice. And at the time, I had a friend of mine from high school who was sort of managing me, you know, giving me ideas, and we were, you know, he was there for me in terms of we were trying to figure out something to do with my music. And his idea was like, let's go meet up with this guy from Candy Rat Records, play him some of your songs, and, you know, show him what you got. So we drove out to Chicago, where Candy Rat is based out of, and we got a meeting with the owner, Rob Poland. And we sat down with Rob, and I was all excited. I was like, you know, I had a couple songs that I'd been working on for a couple years, and I played them for him. And he was just like, pretty much like, yeah, they're cool. But Candy Rat is, like, always looking for something that has, like, not a gimmick necessarily, but that next thing that's going to push the art form forward. Yeah. And at the time, my songs didn't really have, like, they were good fingerstyle songs, but they didn't have anything unique about them. And when he told me that, it was kind of like, yeah, you're right. I agree with you. As a consumer and an audience member for fingerstyle guitar, there wasn't really anything that caught you about it. So I was like, well, I did have this idea of combining fingerstyle guitar with hip hop. What do you think of that? He's like, well, that sounds cool. If you get that, bring it to me and I'll listen to it. Yeah. And then that sort of sent me on the path of, was like, okay, well, he would be into that. So, and I think that would be cool, like combining it with a genre that I've never really seen before. And then it started off, that was sort of the thesis of, you know, combining fingerstyle with hip hop. But then it sort of evolved into me learning how to produce music, you know, trying to make little beats, hip hop beats, and then play my guitar over them. And then I was like, well, and then I would send them to this friend of mine who took me to meet Rob Poland. And he was like, well, these sound really cool. You should have someone rap over top of them. And I was like, well, that's not what we originally thought of, but what did you have in mind? He's like, well, what about your friend Johnny from high school. He's a great rapper, and let's send him the beat and have him rap over it. And then that was sort of my first. And then, we could talk a little bit about what path that took me down. But that was, just to answer your question, that was the genesis of starting to think about doing something different with fingerstyle guitar and breaking out of the box of just, becoming like another Tommy clone or something like that.
Yeah.
And now that's just my mindset in general. It's like, okay, fingerstyle guitar is a tool, and it's something that is very much part of, there's a rich history to it, and I want to continue that lineage, but I want to figure out how to add things to it that are different, that make it so that more people can find out about fingerstyle guitar. People who like pop music, or people who like hip hop,
right,
or people who are into different kinds of music that normally wouldn't, like fingerstyle guitar. It's kind of like, instead of just preaching to the converted, how can you find people and convert them to, learn about this beautiful style of guitar playing?
Yeah. How do you pronounce Johnny's last name? Is it Gorns or?
That's it. Gorns. Yep.
Okay.
Gorns.
So I want to just, before we play this next one, I just have to give proper acknowledgement to the godfather of fingerstyle guitarists. And I'll share a really, really quick story about this. I was a contractor in a previous life. So I go in and I'm finishing up this basement for this guy, all this electrical work. And at the other end of the building, these painters had come in, and they had the first acoustic wave Bose machine, like that played CDs. And it was in this canvas covered thing. And it was full of paint and everything. But I didn't even know what it was there. And I heard this sound coming out. And at the other end of the basement, I went running down, and they are playing an album called Aerial Boundaries by Michael Hedges, which to this day is still my favorite album of all time, of all records anywhere ever produced. And, for those of you who don't know who Michael Hedges is, he was kind of the guy who started a lot of the fingerstyle. I mean, he was so early, like in this development, and other people have come on subsequently that you've mentioned, and as well as yourself. But the things he was creating, and the sounds of the harp guitar and all of these, I had one person who said, yeah, I saw him playing in this little club. Everybody's ignoring him. He's up there making these incredible sounds. And have you been a fan of his, Michael Hedges?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely aware of Michael Hedges, and definitely a fan. It's weird. It's like, I guess fingers, real people who are like really into fingerstyle guitar, they kind of know there's you have the people that come from the Chet lineage.
Yes.
Who are thumb pickers and who are into the boom chick style, right, and that Nashville sound. And then you have the people that come from the Hedges lineage, who are more percussive, more abstract, more ethereal, banging on the guitar, altered tunings, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I come more from the Chet, Merle Travis lineage, where I kind of, I was in the beginning, I was looking at both. I was like, you have Andy McKee, and you have all these other guys with the altered tunings and the crazy, harmonics. And then you have Tommy, who's doing pretty much blues music, he's kind of staying in that lane. So I definitely love both. I just was like, I can't even do that stuff that Michael Hedges is. I was like, I don't even want to attempt that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's so advanced, and I was like, I don't even want to try and compete in that world. But yeah, I mean, he's incredible. He really is responsible for, I mean, anyone who's able to pretty much invent a new genre. It's insane.
I think what really attracted me to him was his tunings, because I'm a real fan of alternate tunings, and I write, even though I write more in a Christian rock, sort of pop rock vein, I write most of my stuff in alternate tuning, and it doesn't matter. It's just, if that's where the inspiration comes from, who cares what you tune to? It's just get the song. So
yeah, I agree.
Let's play this next one here, Donrique, Leaving California. California. What key and what is the chords that you're opening with, or the riff you're opening? Like what, you know, where are you on the fretboard? Are you capoed? Are you open string? Like any special tuning on this?
Yeah, that song is in standard tuning and it's in E minor. And I'm kind of just playing around with like E minor, and then I think it's like C. I'm bad with if I looked at my guitar, I'd be able to tell you.
Right.
But
okay.
it's basically just the way I think about it is I try and write things that are like rock progressions, you know, really basic power chords, simple progressions.
Doesn't sound that way.
It doesn't sound that way, but that's when I really started getting into fingerstyle guitar. What the songs that I liked the best, if you took out the melody and you took out the you know, the bass lines that are going on, and you looked at just the chord progressions, I mean, it could be like a Red Hot Chili Pepper song or something. So I try and write, you know, with the chord progression that, and kind of now what I'm doing with singer-songwriter, I'm just kind of taking out the fingerstyle part of it, and I'm just writing the chord progressions. And instead of playing the melody with the guitar, I'm just singing it. Yeah. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about it nowadays.
Let me ask you about your recording technique, because you're getting really, really incredibly beautiful sound. The tones are gorgeous on
Thank you.
On the recordings, like really, really polished. Can you just share with us, for those audio geeks who love to hear about recordings, what are you using to record? Is it a combination?
Yeah. So, and thank you. I really appreciate that. And I definitely have to give credit on the Wildflower EP. I did get the opportunity to record that with a Grammy nominated recording engineer. So we have him to thank for that. And
who is that?
His name is Ken Oriole, and he is incredible recording engineer and producer that I met when I was working in Atlanta with Tricky Stewart. And, I got to connect with him when we were working on the Pilot Kid stuff, and we were literally in sessions for like 12 hours a day. And I think I can quote him on this, but he said that he'd never worked as hard. And he's like he has like a crazy work ethic, but he's like, we ran him into the ground because we were like two kids from Jersey who had never been in a recording studio before.
Yeah.
And we're like, wait, so we don't have to leave? And so we would literally just show up at like, I mean, we were probably showing up at like 2 p.m. realistically, but then we would leave at like 4 a.m. like every day. Yeah. And Ken was just like, he just had to be there to just record us.
Yeah.
So you know, we formed a really good relationship in that, you know, we were with each other, you know, a lot. And I learned a lot from him, and he helped me record that, you know, the LA funk and the Leaving California. And the only real thing, the input that I had when we actually recorded it in his apartment in New York. So we weren't even in a professional studio. We did have some great techniques, and, you know, we had great microphones that he brought to the table. But the main thing that I wanted to get a stereo sound with the recordings, because all my favorite fingerstyle albums, when I would listen, and I didn't know this when I first started, but when I started learning more about engineering and recording techniques, I could hear that, like, if I listened to just the left headphone, I heard things that were different that were on the right, headphone. And I was like, and, you know, then I found out that was stereo recording. So I really like the sound of recording acoustic guitar, especially fingerstyle and stereo. Right. And basically what that is just two microphones, and you can have different, you know, you can either place them, you know, equidistant from one another, and then you find different spots on the guitar that kind of bring it out. And it's sort of an experimental thing, but I just like that sort of full stereo image of the acoustic guitar when you're playing fingerstyle.
Yeah, it's so appreciated, because I've experimented endlessly with that, using, you know, I have pretty good tailors, and I use the built-in mic, but I also use really high quality one on the neck, one towards the sound hole, sometimes overhead, and every song is a different animal. You know, it's like the tones that are coming out, depending on where you're playing on the fretboard, if you're playing up high, they're all so different. So like you can't experiment enough, but we only have so much time that we can you know, dedicate to the engineering side of things. So when you have a skilled engineer who has the experience, it's great to just let him dig into his toolbox and say, I know this one, man. I'm going to save you hours and hours.
Definitely.
Of
and just to add one more geeky note to that, we used a matched pair.
Yeah.
So basically, if you are going to record in stereo, and I was even playing around with this the other day, I bought it. I think it was like $250 from Guitar Center. It was these little, I think it was Rode makes them. It's like this little matched pair condenser microphones. They're like this big. They look kind of like a little Sharpie or something.
Yeah.
They're super tiny. You get the pair for like $250. And you get a great sound just recording with those two. So I would, if someone's interested in, you know, because we use like some vintage microphones on the LA Funk stuff, but just the same principle, matched pair, stereo recording, you can achieve for like $250.
Nice. Are you you know, are you representing Rode in any way here? Should we?
I'm not. I mean, you know, maybe shout out to Rode if they want to, you know, hop on board.
You see that? Donrique is available. Donrique, I should say. Yeah, he's available. So give him a call. Hey, let's do another one. This one is called Rollin' Train, everybody.
I'm riding on this rolling train. I'm hiding from the pouring rain. Nobody here, nobody there, and where it takes me, I don't care. Just riding on this rolling train. I take a drink, I feel no pain. I got no home and I got no name. You see people come and people go and melt away like virgin snow. So I keep riding on this rolling train. Just riding on this rolling train. I'm riding on this rolling train to make my way back home again. I eat the sacred, sip the sad, and I spit out what I never had, and keep riding on this rolling train. Keep riding on this rolling train. Just riding on this rolling train.
Awesome. We get to hear your vocals, man. So let's talk a little bit about your vocal skills and your influences, and like when you really realized that, hey, you want to dig in a little deeper and you want to expand this role of fingerstyle. Who did you who did you conjure up in your mind to say, this is somebody who I really relate to as far as a vocalist? People that you grew up listening to besides Ian Anderson and Jethro Tull. Really don't mind if you sit this one out.
Yeah,
I used to perform that, by the way.
I try and block out Jethro Tull only because I've heard so much of it. Like literally, like I could so much of it. But it is my first influence. So yeah, you got a little Jethro, you got a little Ian Anderson in there. And then definitely from there, it turned into like emo music. So I got a little bit of like, influenced by like Yellow Card and The Starting Line and Senses Fail and Fall Out Boy. So I kind of like that little bit of whininess. But I sort of have like I kind of am like in between I'm like kind of like a baritone. So I've always really loved John Mayer. I mean, most, singer-songwriter, guitar players from my generation, John Mayer's definitely on the list. And then, as I kind of started really thinking about vocals and really trying to point to like where my range is and not trying to be something that I wasn't, You know, people like Johnny Cash and people who have, you know, looking at people who had lower voices, Michael Bublé, he kind of is like more of like on the lower end of the spectrum, even though I'm not anywhere near as skilled as Michael Bublé, but just like his tone. So yeah, people that are sort of on the lower register of their singing voices. And yeah, I'm still trying to kind of build up that list of influences, because it's still a new thing for me. I'm kind of getting more comfortable with it, and, you know, knowing how to control my voice, but it's still like, I feel like I'm where I was when I was playing the guitar for like only 3 years, you know? So
Yeah.
I'm kind of at that stage.
Great. I mean, if you think about it, you know, Michael Bublé could never do with a guitar what you do. So there's kind of like, you know, it really doesn't matter. It all comes down to, can you make the music? And whether that is like, a lot of people come on this show and I ask, what's your instrument? You know, because they may play an instrument, but a lot of the serious one will say voice. You know, I do play a little piano or a little guitar, both or whatever.
Right.
But it's really about making the music. And I always cite like Paul Simon as one of the geniuses of our time. He was considered a finger-style guitarist. He's a badass player, man. He's
even
really
a poet. You would even consider him more of like a beatnik poet or something.
Yeah, yeah. And that's where it comes to, you know, Paul doesn't have like the strongest voice in the world. He's more of a mellow singer. However, it's like, what can he do musically? And it's like, man, if you're not envious of that, you don't have a pulse. I mean,
that's he's definitely on the list too. Bob Dylan, obviously, someone who's one of the greatest artists of our time, and he, you know, most people can't even stand listening to his voice, but
yeah,
but they don't even realize that majority of the songs that they listen to are actually Bob Dylan songs.
Yeah, I love his voice because he stripped away all of the false veneer and just went right to the core of his soul, and that's what he's singing from. And he was doing something so revolutionary that, and he, like you said, he's written libraries of songs. You don't really see Bob covering other people's material.
Yeah, he doesn't. He makes the music that other people cover.
Yeah, well, I think he does covers of his own stuff.
Yeah, right. This is a cover of a Bob Dylan song by Bob.
It's like, I'm going to do it this way and use this voice on this day. I mean, he's and he's still doing it. Like, you know, this is since the early 60s.
I know, it's incredible.
Yeah.
So, and I think the through line with all of these people that we sort of are talking about is at the core of it is the songwriting. You know, the songwriting is what puts a spotlight on guitar playing or vocals or lyrics. It's ultimately, that's what makes, you know, you can play a bunch of really fast notes, but if you don't have a good song and a good structure to put them in, people don't want to listen to it. So the songwriting is sort of what is the most important thing. And, you know, that's what I'm sort of, you know, you get into learning guitar, or you get into singing or something because it's fun to do and it feels good. And it's something to, you know, put your focus on. But the more you sort of start to uncover what it's all about, you're like, oh, it's the songs are what are really, you know, driving those skills. And I mean, people like Bob Dylan, that's why he's so good, is because it's all about the songwriting, the structure, and the form.
Yeah, he's something else. And tell me about, like, what are you doing as far as you got all this stuff going on, performing. Do you get out? Do you find places that are you know, that are receptive to what you're doing locally, or is that a challenge for you here in New Jersey?
Yeah, that's a great question, because even a couple years ago, that was something that I was trying to make a conscious decision of, like, do I want to be a performer? Do I want to be a songwriter? I mean, some other people that I'm really influenced by, you know, contemporary producer songwriters, people like Ricky Reed, Benny Blanco, Justin Tranter. I got a choice to hang out with him when I was over at Red Zone. And these are people who are writing songs for, like, you know, Ariana Grande, or, you know, people like that, you know, more pop kind of writers of today, but are still they're sort of like the Carole Kings of today, the people that are kind of in the background writing all these songs. And I was like, do I want to just be that? Because to me, the songwriting is what's most important. And but I always had this itch to go out and perform. So I'm kind of coming out of this phase of just like, I've just been writing and producing and in the studio and just working on my craft kind of, you know, in the studio. And so now I'm sort of, you know, that itch is coming to want to perform again. So, you know, I'm finding little places. I found a spot in Morristown called the Laundromat that I'm starting to set up some, you know, little 2-hour sets doing, and starting just doing open mics again and just going out and playing around and finding what works for me in terms of, you know, my balance of songwriting and performing.
Great. Yeah, I've played there, the Laundromat. That's a good place for you for sure. Yeah, yeah. It's a little challenging around here, but I think you're doing the wise thing. I mean, you're building what is your quintessential brand. I mean, you know, and really it takes time to put that investment in. And, you know, it takes time and perseverance and longevity to stay with, you know, especially when you're carving out something that's unique, you know, that's unique for you. And, you know, having the patience to stay with it, it takes a lot, you know.
Thanks. Yeah, you totally nailed it. You're obviously on that same exact path, because you totally nailed the, you know, just the longevity and the patience and thinking about the big picture. Yeah. You know, I think about people like, you know, like Les Paul playing, you know, at his jazz club, you know, until he's dead pretty much. Yeah. And it's like, that's the game I'm playing. Right. You know, I'm not trying to be a flash in the pan thing. This is my life. This is what I want to do. This is what, you know, what I feel I'm here to do. And for me, it's like, okay, well, you know, what's 2 years or 3 years towards figuring out, you know, the next chapter. You know, everything is kind of like in these little 2 year increments of like, you know, kind of refining your lifestyle around, you know, your art form. So yeah. You definitely have to have that mindset.
Yeah, I think you're right, because if you look at the people who have been in that position, the most recent example, like you said, is not only Les Paul, but B.B. King literally died like playing. Like he got sick in the last year of his life, and he just couldn't physically do it. But he played till, you know, he was pretty much gone. And somebody asked Don Henley from the Eagles, like, you know, what are you doing, like touring? You've done so well financially, you don't. And he goes, I did try that retirement thing. He goes, what about, you know, I'm a musician. I'm a singer. I'm supposed to be performing. Yeah. And Elton John tried it. I don't know how many times. He did the last tour, and now I think he's doing it again, saying, I'm not going to play anymore. And I don't believe him. Maybe he won't do it as aggressively because, you know, the road is really difficult. Billy Joel got sick of it. And then he said, you know what? I'm going to just play Madison Square Garden until they're so sick of me and they don't want me. If I don't sell it out, I'll stop playing. Not only hasn't that stopped, but now he's doing stadiums again. It's like, so nobody can stop. Like if it's in your blood and if it's in your DNA, if this is what you're supposed to do, then it's just like if you're any other kind of artist or whatever your career is and you're passionate about it, why would you stop, you know?
It's totally true. Yeah. And that's the thing that, that brings musicians together is that a lot of people may not fully understand it. People really love and appreciate music, but unless you're actually doing it and it's, you have that sort of burning thing within you, right? You gotta cultivate the right, crew of people to kind of keep you going and support you.
Yeah. And the funniest one for me was I saw this old Stones clip one night, and they were interviewing Mick Jagger, and he was like, he couldn't have been more than 21. And they said to him, Mick, how long do you think this will continue to last? And he goes, I don't know, but I think we're good for about a year, maybe a year and a half. It was like,
that's what he said.
Yeah, he goes, and this was like their first album just came, and he had this confused look on his face, like he thought this was just some fluky thing that they really weren't going to have a career out of it. And this is like how many decades later? Like 6, 7.
In a weird way. That's almost like now I'm trying to reconnect with that. Not like carelessness about it, but there's something special that happens when you're not trying to like be famous. You're not trying to like do some crazy. They're just like, we're just doing our thing. I don't know, a year. They're not like, oh, I'm trying to do this for the rest of my life. Yeah. Because when you have that like mindset about it, sometimes you're not doing the thing. Like, to me, music really happens the best when it's just like you're just living your life. And if you're a musical person, it'll just happen. And you know, trying to get back to that when you have more experiences and, you know, you've had things that you've tried and that didn't work, and you but you always have to come back to cultivating that original sort of, like what you said, Mick Jagger's like, I don't know, maybe a year, like, I'm just doing this for fun.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about it like that. You guys are.
Right. That's why God tells us live for today and don't worry about tomorrow. Hey, let's do another one. This is Staying In.
Another Friday night and the whole world's out again. My phone is blowing up, my boys are like, where you been? We got some girls in the whip, trying to hit this little party at 10:30. My girl says go have fun, you should hang out with your friends. But I don't like wasting my time running around, searching for something that I've already found. I like the simple things we do when we're alone, and I like the silly games we say when no one's home. And you're looking sexy, girl, so let's turn off our phones, 'cause we're staying in tonight, we're staying in tonight. Vanilla lavender aroma on your skin. There's no need to lock the door, nobody's coming in. We'll put a movie on, but I don't think that we are ever gonna see the end. And if this was up to me, I would never leave this house again. But I don't like wasting my time running around, searching for something that I've already found. I like the simple things we do when we're alone, and I like the silly games we say when no one's home. And you're looking sexy, girl, so let's turn off our phones, 'cause we're staying in tonight, we're staying in tonight. I could do or say, just let you know you're always staying in my heart. I don't like wasting my time running around, searching for something that I've already found. I like the simple things we do when we're alone, and I like the silly games we say when no one's home. And you're looking sexy, girl, so let's turn off our phones, 'cause we're staying in tonight, we're staying in tonight. You're looking sexy, girl, so let's turn off our phones, 'cause we're staying in tonight, we're staying in tonight.
Yeah, Staying In. I really love the vibe and the mood and the tone of that. Can you give us the metaphor behind this? Was there a special meaning for this song? Like, what was the reason you wrote this one?
I think just you know, I tend to want to stay in instead of go outside. I've always just not really been like a bar or a club guy. Like, I genuinely just like to kind of stay home. I'm a little more of a homebody and play my guitar and work on music and hang out with my girlfriend. And we like to, you know, cook and do, you know, just things that don't require us to kind of go outside all the time.
Right.
We like to go outside, you know, in nature, you know, do things like that. So yeah, it was just pretty literal, kind of just, we're staying in. And I think, always trying to find something that feels unique to you, but at the same time is, like a universal the feeling, hopefully. Like, I'm sure a lot of people can probably relate to the idea of, like, I don't like to go out all the time on Friday night. I like to just have a good time inside.
Yeah. I'm usually like, go out for a sandwich and a beer, and like I'm out of there like in 45 minutes. It's like,
yeah,
I can't
get it done.
I can't stand hanging all night. And it's almost like, I guess, if you're a musician and a performer and what have you, the only reason you want to be in a place like that is because you're going to be on stage performing. Otherwise, I've given up shows that I could have gone to say, I'd rather stay home and write, to tell you the truth.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty bad with that. Like, I probably should go to more concerts, but I don't like being a spectator.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's a group that unless it's someone I really want to see, I'm not really interested to go to like a festival or something. To me, it's like, I want to work to like get on stage and play. Like, that's, I'm not getting there by watching someone on stage. Like, I got to put in the work.
Yeah. Well, you're doing the right thing, man. I mean, the investment is like, it's something that's a long game, and people who are not in this field, they could never understand how could you spend all this time. But as you develop your archives of material and you continue to climb, that ascending staircase, it is nice to once in a while look back on the journey and say, we don't do that enough. We're always like focused on work and progress. But once in a while, it is good to look back and say, well, look where I came from. I had no idea that I would be like here and playing at this level now, even 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So to that end, I think you've got a really, really bright and exciting future career, like not only developing but about to manifest itself.
Thank you
as
so
you
much.
continue. Yeah. So we're getting close to the end now here. So let's talk about your wishes for the continuing of 2019 as we continue wrapping up this year. What do you see on the horizon for you, Donrique, as far as like going into next year? What would be like your dream thing to happen for your career? Because you're doing a lot of things with making all these affiliations with other artists, engineers, and so forth. So do you see it all coming together as some kind of picture, or are you taking it day by day? And what are your aspirations?
Yeah, that's another. I mean, you ask good questions.
I practice, man.
Yeah, you're great. You're great, man. I really appreciate just the thoughtfulness. Yeah, so right now, actually, what I've been focusing on. So I'm always songwriting. I'm always kind of developing my sound as Donrique. But what I've been focusing on for like the past 6 months is actually I'm building a series of online songwriting and recording courses that I'm getting ready to launch very soon. And, I had to take I had to just really be realistic about, how I wanted to monetize my career, how I wanted to really take everything that I've invested and say, okay, I've really put in a lot of work. I really kind of have a certain thing that I can help people with musically. I have these skills that I've developed musically. What do I want to do with them? Do I want to sell t-shirts? Do I want to sling, CDs at people? Do I want to try and run around and play shows all over the place? And, all of that will come in time. But for me, or do I want to do a Kickstarter and raise money for an album? And, I was really thinking that I thought it would be a great way to get to my next point in my career. And to, sort of monetize these skills. I'm not afraid to say that, we need to make money doing what we're doing. And for me, I was looking at a lot of different people. And the thing that I really was attracted to was the idea of taking everything that I've learned and putting it into something that would help other people make their own music. Right. And so I've been and that's been a completely new skill set in and of itself, trying to actually teach music. And to take all these things that are very internalized, things that I've just spent a lot of time processing in my own brain, but never really communicating to people about songwriting and guitar playing and recording. And I've been just kind of getting that out of me and putting it and documenting it. And for me, it's kind of like, it's like another building a real asset, once I have these courses and these videos and they really bring value to people. And And I'm kind of envisioning wanting to be, I want people to enjoy my music, and I want people to come to my shows. But for me, it would be much more rewarding if if I got a message from a 22-year-old kid who said, or I found out some article, some kid blows up from a song that he wrote, and how did you learn about songwriting? Oh, I took a course from Donrique. To me,
Right.
that would be a better way for me to kind of just spread my what I've spent so long to think about and process with music. I kind of see that being an important part of what I want my legacy to be. I want to really not just inspire people through my music, but I want to help people like actually write their own songs and actually be able to do their own music. Because at the end of the day, people who are attracted to what you're doing musically, not 9 times out of 10, but a lot of times are musicians themselves. And deep down, they're like, I want to learn how to do that. How can I do that? I like what he's doing. I want to do that too. So I want to actually be able to help people, not just inspire them to want to make music, but actually practically give them the tools to do that.
Fabulous. A thought leader. And I can't think of a better person to do this, to take this on. This is great. There's always a need for people to learn. And now we have the ability to just log on and tune in and follow somebody who's a great example. So that's really awesome, man. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And so for people, the best way to connect to Donrique, and we'll include all your links, of course, in the show notes, but how can people immediately connect with you?
So definitely donrique.com. It's DONRIQUE.com. And that sort of I just send people there because it's easy to remember. And then you can go to all the social links from there. So just head over to donrique.com and sign up for the mailing list. You get some free stuff with that. And then, follow me on all the socials from there. You click all the little icons.
Awesome. Donrique, I got to tell you, man, it was a pleasure. We could have stayed on all day long talking about finger-style guitar only, but there's so much to cover. And I just want to, on behalf of all those out there who appreciate and love your music, I just want to wish you all of the success and God's blessings on you and your music. And also my best to Gianna. Thank you for connecting us. And I'll see you on the mat.
See you on the mat, yeah, in Downward Dog.
LA Funk, Leaving California, Rolling Train, and Staying In. These are the songs of Donrique. Don't forget to support him at his website, donrique.com. Check out the show notes. Everything is under Donrique. So check him out on Instagram, Facebook, all the socials. You can find out all about what Donrique is up to with his music, his training, his teaching, his videos. Stay tuned for all of this that's coming up. He's a graphic designer. We talked about Andy McKee, Jethro Tull, Tommy Emmanuel, Michael Hedges, Candy Rat Records, Ken Oriel, engineer, Road Mics, Emo Music, John Mayer, Ricky Reed, and the Laundromat in Morristown, New Jersey. This was a really fun interview for me personally to connect with Donrique and talk about fingerstyle music that is so passionately ingrained in my soul. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have not yet connected to the dHarmic Evolution Facebook community page, you gotta get over there if you're an artist, singer-songwriter, or are you an author, speaker, or thought leader. We can help you guys out too. Post your content on there. Do you have a new book, a new speaking engagement? Do you have a new video, a new album? We all love that. A photo shoot. Maybe you're playing a bunch of gigs somewhere. Post it on the dHarmic Evolution Facebook community page. And for those of you who have gone and supported our new, brand spanking new WordPress dHarmic Evolution website, go on over there, man. It's really cool. We have 227 artists from around the world on that site with their photos, their videos, their music, their songs. Everything on there about them is available for you to surf and check out who's doing what in the indie music community worldwide. That's why we put it up there. Leave a comment, please, on the blog, on the website, and let us know what you're thinking about this show. We'd really dig that. Also, in the coming weeks, we'll be coming to you from the Music City. Yes, I am relocating on a more permanent basis to Nashville, Tennessee. The Music City, yeah, that's where I think the dHarmic Evolution belongs. So that's it for me today. That's a wrap. I'm your host for the dHarmic Evolution, James Kevin O'Connor, singer-songwriter, audio-video artist, master storyteller, and international talent agent. So until the next time when we meet again, I'll either see you on the socials or I'll see you from the stage.
It's in my